What's up, gang? Welcome to The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazday. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now listen, The Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi, as I say, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazday, and I'm flying solo, and we're talking about a special theme. It's warm to my heart called Action Organizes. Action Organizes. So what does that mean? So I'm going to back up. I'm going to tell you a quick story. And as many of you guys know, I exited my company, Money Source, TMS, in June of 2020, July of 2020, and started working with renowned coach, Dr. Jeff Spencer, in early 2021. And he and I met through the grapevine during COVID, but started working with Dr. Jeff Spencer, my coach. I love him, amazing guy. He was Lance Armstrong's coach on the Tour de France. He's coached Richard Branson, Tiger Woods, Bono. I mean, just a real amazing human being. And it's all around performance. He's actually a former Olympic athlete himself, former guest on the show. And so you can go check out my episodes with Dr. Jeff, but good friend. And we were talking about what I was really trying to figure out. What do I want to do with my life? So this is 2021. I was 42 years old, and really was trying to figure out what's next. And he said this statement to me is like, hey, look, man, you really have to kind of figure out your boundaries. Like, how do you want to show up in the world? Where do you want to spend your time? But know one thing. Action organizes. And I was like, whoa, that's a cool concept. And the concept really goes like this: like, as we take steps, as we do things, we get information and it organizes our thoughts. And so not being afraid to take those action steps then helps us organize what's next for us. Because I think a lot of the times what we do is we jump to the conclusion, we go to the end result. We're like, I want to, have this goal. I want to have this outcome. And it's not to say those things don't happen. But in my experience, I've talked to a former guest, my business partner, Joe Duran, about this. It's like, it never ends up the way we think it's going to end up. And if you get the goal, you never get there the way that you think you're going to get there. And there's a really good book that I love called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And he talks about kind of the same idea in the form of like doing a startup or coming up with a product that you think what people want. You have an idea, you go execute on it, and then you get information and it actually tells you something different that you hadn't realized. And you either change your path or you maybe even change the outcome itself. And so this thought around action organizing has been kind of my mantra since Jeff taught it to me. And again, like Jeff is, if you go look him up, he's coached 42, I think, world champions and Olympians. And it's around, again, them perfecting their craft to affect a championship outcome. So I say all that because I think a lot of times people really get focused on how do I, like creating this perfect start to try to create the perfect finish. And my answer is like, no, action organizes. So an imperfect start, I will go for 100% of the time. And I was interviewing Jen Gottlieb yesterday, it's an interview that we're going to have coming up. And she was talking about how she has to get 51% of the way there before she'll take action. And I thought that was really amazing. And one of my retorts to her was, I believe that's a great idea because 49% of the outcome is luck anyway. So a lot of times we'll do the right things in the wrong environment or in the wrong timing and get the wrong outcome. And even though it was the right step at the right time, but there's just certain things you don't have in your control. But I love this idea of action organizing because I know that as I take action, I get data back. And with that data, I can then optimize my current environment for the next step. Sometimes I'll take 2 steps back to take a step forward. Sometimes I'll take 1 step back to take 5 steps forward. But I'm always moving forward because I know that I need to get that next step of information. I need to get that next bit of data so I can then optimize my current environment to get to my goal. And really following this lifestyle and mantra of action organizes, what it does is it reframes this idea of what is success and what is failure. Because again, if we're saying that half of success is luck anyway, which I really do believe it's some pretty huge number. There's a great book, Fooled by Randomness, by I think it's Nassim Taleb, and I'm reading a book right now, Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, and he was talking about this idea of randomness. There's so much randomness that we can't control that will affect the outcomes. That I always put aside that's always going to be something that I can't control. So my failure is not necessarily a failure. It's just a new data point that I can then optimize for the current environment that includes randomness even. There's some randomness in the environment. There's some randomness in what the environment wants that I can then optimize again to get to the next better outcome. And as I've started to think of my life in this way, what it does is a few things. Number one is I let go from an ego perspective of the outcome, because I know that a lot of the times the outcome is out of my control. Number two is it shows me that as I receive information, I can optimize for my next best step. So I'm going to use an example of what happened to me over the last 3 years, because I think that this is a critical example of this working really well. When I exited the business, I had nothing. I was like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm leaving to go do this other thing. I was like, I'm leaving and I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's a scary, scary thing to do when you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I don't want to do this. And so that was November 2019 when I made that decision. I then spent the next few months, orchestrating my exit. COVID hits March of 2020, just 3 months later. So the world blows up. Again, randomness. I had written a book in 2019 randomly, like just because I felt like it. Decided to go full tilt on that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go make my book a success, The Core Value Equation, and started my book launch. Again, not even planning to do that. And if you asked me what I was going to do, then I'm going to make this the biggest book in the world, and I'm going to be writing core values from Fortune 100 companies. That was literally what was in my brain at the time, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I started doing this podcast, which was then a live stream for the book launch. So again, information coming in, found I liked that. And then in October that year, got randomly asked if I wanted to coach the CEO. Now, behind all this, I knew I wanted to get into private equity. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind, but I'm doing all this other stuff. And what's interesting is that I got one client really quickly, and then I ended up getting about 13 clients really quickly. And I now had a multi-7-figure business that came out of nowhere. Again, random. I didn't expect that. I didn't plan for that, but it was cool. And I went full tilt into that. I went full tilt into podcasting. I went full tilt in my book in 2021, 2022, and up until 2023. And it was really interesting. First of all, I was like, wow, books are really hard to promote. The world's noisy out there, and I have no digital presence. So that was a data point. I was like, I have to go build a digital presence, and I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if I want to do that. Number two is, I really like this podcasting thing. I'm going to go lean harder into that because that feels natural to me. I can create content without even thinking twice. If you told me to flip around my camera and do some sort of influencer video, I'd be like, heck no, I'm not doing that. But doing a podcast, I love it. I'll do it in 2 seconds. So data point there, action, organizing. I like that. I don't love the influencer stuff. I do love the podcast stuff. And then the coaching thing. And I realized I love working with entrepreneurs. I love it. Started a mastermind out of it, worked with 50 entrepreneurs over those couple of years. And I was like, I love it in smaller doses. I don't love doing it full time. It just didn't, it lacked a couple of things. Number one, action organizing, it showed me, I love working with entrepreneurs. But they have to be the right entrepreneurs, because I love them all as humans, but as me helping their businesses, I couldn't help all their businesses. So I was like, they have to have certain elements in their business, or else it doesn't really my work doesn't support them. Number one. Number two is I was like, it feels like I'm showing up for work, like I'm on the clock. It was the first time I felt like I'd been on the clock ever. So I was like, I'm probably doing too much of this. I have to do less of it. And number three, I was like, I have no skin in the game. Like if they win, there's no upside for me. So, I kind of complemented that by just, being expensive, but it still felt like a job. I'd always had businesses where, I maybe made a lot of money or made good money, but I always had, enterprise value that I would build into the business, and I had something I could sell. If I just didn't want to come to work, I could hire someone to do the work I didn't want to have to do. And what I found with advisory work is I was the product. I had to show up, and that was the biggest thing that I realized. I don't like being the product. So then I said, well, let me go do a mastermind. But I realized the things I have to do to make the mastermind successful, I didn't love doing. So again, going back to this action organizes, I was organizing all these data points. And what ended up happening, this started, beginning of 2020. We're talking 2020, 2021, 2022. By the middle of 22, I was in Oaxaca, Mexico for the summer. And I was like, you know what? I've realized something. I like some of this stuff. The thought leadership stuff I like in small doses. The advising CEOs I love in small doses, unless I have skin in the game. Then I feel differently about it, and I need to have skin in the game. And I think that what I want to do is help entrepreneurs build their companies, but I want to do it from a position of investing capital. By the way, I was doing a lot of investing at that time, and I realized I did really love investing. So another data point. So I like investing. I like helping entrepreneurs as long as I have skin in the game. I like some of the influence stuff as long as it aligns up to the stuff I'm talking about. I love podcasting. And so I came to the conclusion I need to go get into private equity, and I'm still going to do some of the stuff I love in small doses. And that became the formula for me. And I doubled down on that in January of 2023, where I'm like, well, what are I'm going to quit coming up with these crazy outcomes that I want to come up with. Because I would always come up with these crazy outcomes. I'm going to build a $100 million company. I'm going to have 1,000 employees and pick all these weird vanity metrics. I'm going to have a Inc. 5000 company, top 100. And then I'd hit them and it didn't feel any different. And I was like, okay. And the reason for it is I was all about the goal, and I wasn't about how I'm showing up to be in the world. And as action organized, I got really clear that who I wanted to be. And I've talked about this in previous episodes, but I said, okay, I want to, number one, be someone that creates impact with entrepreneurs. And I could do it in two ways. I want to do it through private equity, and I want to do it from mentoring entrepreneurs. And I do both those things. And number three, I love podcasting, so I want to create impact with that. All right, so I'm clear on that. I'm going to go do that. And the action organized over time where I could figure out what percentage of my time I like doing that stuff. And the influence stuff, still do it a little bit, maybe it's 5% of the time. Podcast, I love it, but it's a 5%er. Like those things take up 5-10% of my time. I wanted to spend 90% of my time on investing in companies. And that really got me to lean heavily into private equity. So once I got really focused, I realized, that's the percentage of time I need to do it. And by the way, I need to do the podcasting because I have a creative side of me that if I don't explore that, which this happened to me back at TMS, again, action organizing, was not doing a lot of the creative stuff outside of the company. And it suffocated me. I knew it was something I needed in my life. I just didn't know it till I did it and didn't have it and wasn't happy. So again, this goes back to this idea of failure versus success. And that if we take that away, and it's like, no, there is no failure, there is no success. There's just action that happens that you organize that creates an outcome that gives you data that then you optimize in your current state to create a better state. And so fast forward to 2023, I was like, hey, that's how I want to create impact. And I realized I care about having deep relationships. So I figured out how I wanted to do that. And I knew I cared about being healthy. And I figured out how I wanted to do that. And I was like, look, if I'm healthy, I have deep relationships, and I'm creating impact. And in the percentages I just laid out, again, based off action organizing and me kind of figuring out how much of each I needed, then I end up in this perfect steady state. And it'll probably change too. But what ended up happening was I showed up in today's world doing all those things, and all the dominoes started falling into place. And I've said this to my brother the other day. I said, man, 2023 was my favorite year that I've lived. It was my best year that I was alive. Like I really felt like I was fully aligned with the things that I wanted to do and started creating all the outcomes, and the dominoes fell into place. But more importantly than that, I felt like I was showing up in the right way, the right amount, the right time, doing the right things. And the reason I was able to do that was because I took action, imperfect action, knowing that it would give me information that I could then go and explore and exploit in all these great ways to live the life that I want to live. And so I'm here today, beginning of 2024, and I'm like, man, I'm fired up. Like I'm firing on all cylinders right now. And it was really by kind of getting clear that taking imperfect action steps would organize my thoughts to give me information, to then optimize my environment, to then create the next best step, to then take more action, and so on and so forth. So I encourage you, take action. It organizes your thoughts. It can be imperfect action, and use that information to create the existence that you want so you can be who you want to be in the world and create the things you want to create. That said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you love it, like I'm always asking people, give us reviews, do all the things, share the episode. I'm doing a lot more of these solos because I want to share they're always my most profound learnings in life that I'm bringing to you. This particular profound learning came from working with Dr. Jess Spencer for 3 months. And so that's a big investment, both of time and resources to learn this one thing. So I bring that to you, and I encourage you to check out his work as well. Until next time, peace out. Love you. You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on, so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers, and after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.